The first time she asked me if I wanted to stay the night, my heart stopped. Her voice was soft, almost casual, but there was something under it that made my chest tighten. The storm outside shook the windows. The couch behind me was already made up, and Emma Lane stood in front of me in her living room, wearing a simple sweater and that careful little smile. "Do you want to stay here tonight?" she asked. And all I could think was, if I say yes, nothing between us will feel the same again. My name is Alex Taylor. I am 26, and I work as a software engineer at a tech firm in Portland, Oregon. Most days, my world is a screen, a pair of headphones, and a stream of bugs that never stops. The office is all gray walls and humming servers, bright lights and tired faces. The only thing that makes it feel human is Emma. Emma is my team lead. She is 30, smart, fast, and somehow still kind in a place that wears people down. She was the one who trained me when I joined 3 years ago. She never made me feel stupid for asking questions. When a build broke at midnight, she was there with a joke and a tired grin. When I forgot to eat, she dropped a granola bar on my desk without saying much. Somewhere between late-night deployments and coffee runs, she became my closest friend. That alone should have been enough. I tried to keep it that way. I told myself she was just my boss, my mentor, my safe person in a hard job. But my heart never got that memo. That Friday, the sky had been heavy all afternoon, like Portland was holding its breath. By the time 5 o'clock rolled around, most people had logged off and rushed out, hoping to beat the rain. I stayed behind to check one more push. I could hear Emma in my head saying, "Always test twice before the weekend." I packed up when the office felt almost empty. The hum of the lights echoed louder when no one was talking. I walked down to the lobby, and the sound of the storm hit me first. Rain slammed against the glass doors in thick sheets. The streetlights outside were just blurry halos in the water. She was standing there by the doors, staring at her phone. Dark brown hair a little damp at the ends, a few drops on her blouse, her work badge still hanging around her neck. When she looked up and saw me, her blue eyes softened. "Still here?" I asked, shifting my backpack on my shoulder. "Yeah," she said with a sigh. "My car is in the shop, transmission issues. I have been trying to get a ride, but nobody is picking up. Ride shares are slammed. I think everyone saw the forecast and gave up." I took my keys out of my pocket and held them up. "You know, lucky for you, my old Honda is downstairs. I can give you a ride. I am not scared of a little rain." She bit her lip like she was thinking it over. "You sure? I do not want to be a problem. You probably just want to go crash." "If I go home alone, I will just stare at my laptop again," I said. "Let me at least feel useful on the way out of this week." That got a small smile out of her. "All right," she said. "Deal. I accept your noble chauffeur service." We ran to the elevator, then to the parking garage, dodging puddles. My Honda sat in its usual corner, a faded blue with a dent on the side from a bad backing job last year. Not pretty, but loyal. Emma slid into the passenger seat. I turned on the engine, and the heater came to life with a low hum. Outside, the rain hit the windshield in a steady roar. Inside, it was warm and close. Her perfume was light, clean, and mixed with the smell of wet air. For a while, we just drove and listened to the wipers. She found a soft indie station and let it play low. The city moved slow, headlights smeared across the wet road. I could feel the tension of the week leaving my shoulders bit by bit. "Thanks again," she said after a few minutes. "Feels like I am always dragging you into extra stuff. Late nights, emergency fixes, now this. If it were not for you, I would still be eating alone in the dark corner of the break room," I said. "You pulled me out for tacos that one time, remember? You saved my social life." She laughed. "You make a good sidekick, Alex. Reliable, quiet, smarter than people think." I pretended to be offended. Sidekick, ouch. I thought we were at least co-main characters by now. Her smile lingered. "Maybe you are," she said, and looked out at the rain again. We talked as the traffic crawled. Office stories, small memories, little things that somehow felt big in that small car. She told me about her first job interview. How the guy barely looked at her resume because he assumed she was there for a different role. I told her about leaving the Midwest, about how strange it felt to move to a rainy city where I knew no one. By the time we reached her neighborhood on the edge of the city, the storm was even worse. Water rushed along the curbs. The trees shook in the wind. I pulled up in front of her small beige house. The porch light glowed through the downpour. "Seriously, you are a lifesaver," she said as she unbuckled. "But look at that. You really think it is smart to drive all the way back now?" I checked the road behind us. It did look bad. Dark, slick, empty. "I will be fine," I said. "I drive careful." She watched the rain for a second, then turned back to me with a new look in her eyes. A mix of concern and something else I could not name. "If you are not in a rush, come in for dinner," she said. "I have stuff for pasta. It is the least I can do." My stomach gave its own answer. "You sure?" I asked. "I do not want to crash your Friday night." "You already rescued it," she said. "Come on!" We sprinted from the car to her front door, laughing as the rain soaked our shoes. Inside, her house wrapped around me like a warm blanket. Soft lights. Paintings in calm colors on the walls. Shelves full of books and a few plants that somehow were not dead. It felt lived in a way my place never had. "Make yourself at home," she said, kicking off her shoes. "You are soaked. I will grab you a dry shirt." She handed me an old concert shirt and pointed to the bathroom. When I came back, she was in the kitchen, pulling pasta and tomatoes out of the fridge. "You were not kidding about the pasta," I said, leaning against the counter. "You were on chopping duty," she said, handing me a knife. "No complaints." We cooked shoulder to shoulder in that small kitchen. The space forced us close. Our arms brushed when we reached for things. We laughed when the sauce splashed and both reached for the same towel. The whole house started to smell like garlic and basil. We ate at her small table by the window, watching the rain run down the glass. A light show played on the screen in the corner, but we barely watched it. We talked instead. Our words moved from work to old stories, to dreams we had never said out loud at the office. By the time we finished washing the dishes, it was late. The storm still roared outside. The windows rattled now and then. She stood in the living room, looking from the door to the couch. I could see the moment she made a choice. She took a slow breath and turned to me. "You really should not drive in this," she said. "It is bad out there. Why do you not just stay here tonight? I can pull out the sofa bed. I have extra blankets." My heart thumped hard against my ribs. The words hung between us, heavy and careful. I met her eyes, felt the pull in my chest, and heard myself answer. "I will stay," I said, "but I am not sleeping on the sofa." The words came out of my mouth before I had time to dress them up or pull them back. "I will stay, but I am not sleeping on the sofa." Emma went still for a second. The sound of the rain filled the space between us. Her eyes searched my face like she was trying to decide if I was joking. "You are not," she said slowly, "sleeping on the sofa." I felt my throat go dry, but I did not look away. My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice steady. "I mean," I added, "you take the bed. I will take the floor. That couch is way too short. My feet will hang off the edge, and I will wake up broken. The floor and a blanket is better than that." For half a second, her lips stayed pressed in a flat line. Then she let out a breath and laughed. The kind of soft laugh that broke all the tension at once. She picked up one of the pillows and tossed it at my chest. "You had me there," she said. "I thought you were making a very bold move." I caught the pillow, my face hot. "I am not that brave." Her smile softened. "Not yet," she said under her breath, so quiet I almost missed it. She turned and pulled out the sofa bed anyway, shaking out the sheets she had grabbed. We worked side by side, laying blankets and fluffing pillows. The house had gone quiet except for the rain and the low jazz still playing from her speaker. When the bed was ready, she stepped back and looked at me. "You are sure you are okay out here?" she asked. "I can take the couch and you can have my room if you want." "I am good," I said. "This is already more than I expected when I walked out of the office today." She nodded. a small smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. "Okay then," she said. "Let me grab you an extra blanket. My place gets cold when it rains like this." She disappeared down the hall. I sat on the edge of the pullout, listening to the storm, feeling a strange mix of calm and nerves. This was the same woman who gave code reviews and called out sloppy work, the same woman who told dumb jokes during long sprints. But here, in her house, in the low light, she felt different, closer, realer. She came back with a thick gray blanket and draped it over the foot of the bed. "If you need anything, water, charger, whatever, just knock," she said. "I am right down the hall, first door on the right." I nodded. "Got it." She hesitated, then looked at me again like there was something else she wanted to say. "Alex," she said quietly, "thank you for tonight, for the ride, for staying. It has been a long week. It is nice not feeling alone in it for once." My chest tightened. "You are not alone," I said. "Not at work. Not now." Her eyes softened. For a second, the air between us felt thick again. Then she gave me a gentle smile and stepped back. "Good night," she said. "Try not to overthink every line of code you wrote this week while you sleep." "No promises," I said. She shook her head, still smiling, and turned off the main light. A small lamp by the couch stayed on, painting the room in a warm glow. I watched her walk down the hall and close her door with a soft click. I lay down and pulled the blanket up to my chest. The mattress was thin, but it felt fine. The real comfort was the steady drum of rain and the faint sound of Emma moving around in her room. I stared at the ceiling, replaying the whole day in my head. Her laugh in the car, her voice in the kitchen, the way she had looked at me when she asked me to stay. I told myself this was just a practical choice. Dangerous roads. A spare bed. Nothing more. But deep down, I knew something had shifted. I fell asleep to the storm and the steady hum of the heater. When I woke up, the light in the room was soft and gray. The rain had turned into a gentle drip from the gutters outside. For a few seconds I was confused, staring at the strange ceiling, at the paintings on the wall. Then I smelled it. Toast, eggs, coffee. Something warm and bright. My stomach woke up before the rest of me. I sat up, rubbed my eyes, and pushed the blanket away. My back ached just a little, but nothing serious. The sofa bed had done its job. I folded it halfway out of habit and then gave up when it groaned loudly. "Morning," Emma called from the kitchen. "You alive out there?" "Barely," I called back, but the smell was pulling me back from the dead. I walked into the kitchen and stopped. The small table was set, scrambled eggs with herbs, toast, a small bowl of fruit, 2 glasses of orange juice, and a pot of coffee. She stood by the stove in a soft beige sweater and jeans, her hair up in a loose bun. No office badge, no blazer, no makeup. Just Emma. "How did the couch treat you?" she asked, turning to face me with a small smile. "Not too brutal, I hope." "Better than it looks," I said. "Honestly, this is the most put-together breakfast I have seen in months." She laughed and nodded toward the chair. "Sit, eat. You have a long day of staring at screens to fuel." I sat down and picked up my fork. The eggs were warm and fluffy. The toast had just the right amount of butter. It was simple, but it tasted like care. We ate and talked, slower than we ever did at the office. No rush. No timers. She told me how she had moved to Portland from Texas right after college, how she had almost gone into a different field but changed her mind at the last second. I told her more about the flat fields I had left behind, the long winters, the reason I had wanted a new start. "You make it look easy," I said at one point, taking a sip of coffee. "The job, the pressure, the meetings. Everyone leans on you like you never get tired." She looked down at her mug, turning it in her hands. "It is not easy," she said softly. "Some days I go home and just sit in my car for 10 minutes before I can walk inside. I have to be strong in that office. If I slip, someone is ready to decide I do not belong there. I learned a long time ago that if I show how heavy it feels, people stop listening and just say I am being emotional." She looked up again, and there was something raw in her eyes that I had never seen. "It helps having someone on the team who does not make it harder," she added. "You do not chase credit or throw people under the bus. You just quietly show up." I noticed that. My chest warmed in a whole new way. I get it more than you think, I said. Different reasons, same weight. I know what it feels like to act fine, so no one starts asking questions you do not want to answer. We held each other's gaze for a moment. The silence was not awkward. It felt like a bridge. After breakfast, I insisted on cleaning the dishes. She tried to argue. I ignored her and rolled up my sleeves. The faucet dripped a little, so I asked if I could check it. She pointed me to a small toolbox in the hall closet. While she dried plates, I tightened the loose piece under the sink and swapped out a flickering bulb above the stove. I even cracked open her laptop and cleared out some junk that had been slowing it down. "You are a secret handyman," she said, leaning in the doorway, arms crossed, a light look in her eyes. "If I had known that, I would have lured you over with fake leaks months ago." "Hey," I said. "It is the least I can do after getting a free bed and a 5-star breakfast." Her gaze softened again. "You are more than just a good teammate, you know," she said. "You make my life easier in ways you probably do not see." That stuck with me the whole ride to work. She grabbed her bag, we locked the door, and I drove us downtown. The rain had slowed to a light mist. The streets were shiny and bright. We were quieter than the night before, but not because anything was wrong. It felt like our words were just sitting closer to the surface now. When I pulled into the company lot, she unbuckled and looked at me. "Thank you again," she said, "for staying, for listening, for fixing half my house." "Any time," I said. "Really?" She hesitated, then touched my arm, just for a second. "Alex," she said, "I liked having you there. It felt good." I did not trust my voice, so I just nodded. She smiled, got out, and walked toward the building. I watched her go, thinking that maybe, just maybe, last night had been the start of something neither of us had the courage to name yet. It felt perfect. Until I walked into the office later and saw the way some people were already looking at us. By Monday morning, I was sure the strange warmth from that night would carry me through the whole week. I woke up early, had actual breakfast at home, and for once did not dread the office lights or the sound of notifications. That feeling lasted until about 10:30. It started small. I was in the break room, grabbing a coffee, when I noticed 2 people from QA at the counter. They were whispering, glancing at the door, then at me, then back at each other. "He came in with her again," one of them said under his breath. "Pretty cozy for a team lead and her favorite dev." The other one laughed softly. Must have been some code review. They did not know I could hear them. Or maybe they did not care. My hand tightened around my coffee cup. I walked out before I said something sharp. In the hallway, I checked our team's Slack. The unofficial channel, the one people used for memes and random talk, was lighting up. "Anyone else see Alex roll up with Emma this morning?" One message read. "Carpooling or something more." Another one popped up. Bet he had a long night of bug fixing at her place. There were laughing reactions, winks, little jokes that hit like small stones. I stared at the screen, feeling my cheeks burn. This was not just harmless teasing. They were taking my one quiet, safe place and turning it into a cheap story. At first, I told myself to ignore it. People gossip. It would fade. I went back to my desk and tried to focus. Lines of code shifted in front of my eyes, but my mind was not on them. At our afternoon stand-up, the whole team gathered around the big monitor. Emma stood at the front, tablet in hand, walking us through the sprint goals. Her voice was clear and professional, but I could see a faint tightness in her jaw. When she finished giving timelines, Mark, a senior engineer who liked to hear himself talk, leaned back in his chair and let out a low whistle. "This sprint is going real smooth," he said. "Must be nice having such a strong partnership between the lead and her star player." A few people chuckled. Some just stared at their shoes. My stomach twisted. Emma's hand clenched just a bit tighter around the tablet. "Thanks, Mark," she said, her tone steady. "Our whole team worked hard on this. Any blockers on your side we should know about?" He cleared his throat and nodded, suddenly all business again. When the meeting ended, people drifted away, still sending looks in our direction. Emma stayed behind, closing windows on the screen. I walked up to her, my heart beating fast. "Hey," I said quietly, "you okay?" She let out a breath and gave a short, tired smile. "I am fine," she said. "It is just noise. I have heard worse." "It is not right," I said. "They do not know what they are talking about." "I know," she said, "but this is how it goes." A woman in charge. A guy she works well with. And suddenly it is not skill. It is rumors. This is not my first time at this rodeo. She tried to make it sound light, but I could hear the strain under it. That afternoon, things felt heavier. In the kitchen, I overheard two people from design talking. "If I was on her team, I would be mad," one said. "Hard to compete when the boss has a favorite." "Maybe that is how you get on the good projects," the other replied. My chest burned. They were not just talking about me now. They were dragging her too, turning her work into something dirty. Two guys from engineering caught me by the coffee machine later. They were grinning too wide. "So," one said, "you and Emma must be nice having the boss's ear and her driveway." The other laughed. I set my mug down hard and looked them straight in the eye. "There's nothing going on that is any of your business," I said. "If you have a problem with our work, bring it up in review. But the rest of this is not okay." Their smiles faded. One held up his hands. "Relax, man. Just joking." "Yeah," the other added. "Do not be so serious." I walked away, my pulse racing. Near the end of the day, my phone buzzed. From Emma, balcony, 2 minutes. Need air. I took the stairs to the second floor and stepped out onto the small balcony that overlooked the parking lot. The rain had eased into a light mist. The air was cold and smelled like wet concrete. She stood by the railing, hands stuffed in her jacket pockets, looking down at the cars below. When she heard the door close, she turned toward me. Her eyes looked tired in a way I had not seen at her house. "This is getting old fast," she said quietly. "I can handle pressure. I can handle deadlines. But this is different." I moved closer, keeping my voice low even though we were alone. "I am sorry," I said. "This is my fault. If I had not driven you, if I had not stayed." "Stop," she said, shaking her head. "None of this is your fault. We did nothing wrong. You gave me a ride in a storm. You slept on a pull-out couch. That is not a scandal. That is basic human kindness." Her breath came out in a white cloud. "I worked so hard to be taken seriously here," she went on. "I put in extra hours. I ate cold food at my desk. I swallowed stupid comments. Now a simple ride home turns into people acting like I sleep my way through my job." Anger flared in me, sharp and clear. "We can fix this," I said. "I will talk to them. I will tell them to stop." She gave a small, sad smile. "You should not have to," she said, "and I do not want this to land on you. Your career is still early. I do not want people thinking you get ahead just because your lead likes you." She looked back out at the lot. "If it gets worse, maybe I should ask to move you to another team," she said quietly. "Not because I want distance, but because I do not want to hurt you." The thought hit me like a punch. "I do not want to move," I said. "I like working with you. I trust you. I am not going to run away because some people are bored and need a story." She turned back to me. Our eyes met. The faint mist dotted her hair, made small sparkles on her lashes. "So what do we do?" she asked. I took a deep breath. "We do not hide," I said. "We keep things professional and clear at work like we always have. We let our work speak, and if people cross a line, we call it out." She watched me for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "Tomorrow," she said, "I am going to talk to our department head. I will lay it out. The jokes, the comments, all of it. I will make it clear I am committed to this team and to a clean line between work and my personal life. If he is worth anything, he will listen." Quote, "And I will back it up," I said. "If someone says something in a chat, I will not laugh it off. I will answer it in front of everyone." She looked down at my hands, then back at my face. "You are braver than you think, Alex," she said softly. I smiled a little. "I thought you said I was just a sidekick." "Maybe I was wrong," she said. "Maybe you are one of the main characters after all." The rain started again, light but steady. We stayed there a few minutes more. side by side, letting the cold air clear our heads. The next day, she met with the department head. I did not sit in, but I saw her walk into his office with her shoulders straight and her jaw set. She walked out later with a calm look in her eyes. "Went better than I expected," she told me in a low voice when we passed in the hall. "He said he will keep an eye on things, and he reminded me that I have earned my place here." That meant something. That afternoon, the unofficial Slack channel lit up again with a small joke about carpools. This time, I responded. "Speculation is not fact," I wrote. "Emma and I work hard and keep things professional. Maybe focus on your tickets instead of our commute." My message sat there under the joke, clear and direct. A few people reacted with surprised faces. Others stayed silent. Nobody piled on. The thread died. In the next team meeting, our boss spoke briefly about respect and keeping personal comments out of workspaces. He did not name names, but he did not need to. People got the hint. The whispers did not vanish overnight, but they faded. Deadlines stepped in. New bugs, new fires to put out. The office found fresh things to talk about. What stayed was something else. A new line of trust between Emma and me. A feeling that we had walked through a hard place together and come out standing. We met each other's eyes across the room more often now. A quiet check-in. We went back to doing what we did best. Building things side by side. This time, though, every shared glance carried a silent question. Now that we had fought for this space, what were we going to do with it? Work settled into a new rhythm after that. Our big back-end project rolled in with a tight deadline, and Emma went into full lead mode. Clear plans, clean tickets, no wasted words. I followed her pace, and our team did too. We pushed hard for weeks. Late nights, quick dinners at our desks, quick jokes in between code reviews. When the numbers came back, they were better than anyone expected. User reports were smooth. Error rates dropped. The boss was thrilled. At the next all-hands, he pulled up a slide with our team's results and called us out by name. Emma and Alex led this from the front. He said, "It is a good reminder that focus and trust matter more than noise." There were no jokes this time. People clapped. A few turned and gave us real smiles, not the strange smirks from before. Emma's eyes met mine across the room. There was a soft, private pride there. After that, the whispers faded for real. People moved on. New hires came. New issues popped up. The story of us and the storm became just another small thing in a busy office. What did not fade was the way we slipped into each other's lives outside work. Weekends slowly became ours. Sometimes I drove to her place with bags of groceries. We tried new recipes in her small kitchen. She handled the sauces. I handled the grill on the tiny back patio, standing under a worn umbrella when the Portland drizzle showed up. Other times we stayed inside with takeout and old movies. She spread a blanket on the couch. We sat close, shoulders touching, sharing one bowl of popcorn. Half the time we talked through the film, pausing it to argue about endings or to laugh at bad lines. Once, she took me to a little art store and came back with brushes and paints. On a rainy Saturday, we spread newspapers on her floor and tried painting the same scene from her window. My work looked like a kid's drawing. Hers was actually good. "You do not have to be perfect to enjoy it," she said, dipping her brush again. "That is why I like it. There is no deploy, no client, just color." In return, I helped her fix small things around the house. A drafty window, a loose cabinet door, a crooked shelf. With each repair, I felt my place there settled deeper. The rain became our backdrop. Some days it was just a soft patter. Other days it came hard, drumming on the roof while we cooked or read or sat in quiet. It always took me back to that first drive, to her standing under the office lights with damp hair and tired eyes. One Friday, a few months later, it all circled back. We had stayed late at the office for a last-minute deploy. A big client needed a feature pushed before the weekend. Of course, a weird bug showed up at the last second. We tracked it down together, side by side at her desk, shoulders almost touching as we read logs and tried fixes. When the build finally went green and the alerts went quiet, it was almost 11. The floor was empty. Most of the lights were off. Only the glow of our screens and the rain starting up again outside kept us company. "Well," she said, leaning back with a long sigh, "we did it. Again. I owe you dinner times 10 at this point." "You already paid in eggs and toast," I said. "I think we are even." We packed up and rode the elevator down. The lobby doors opened to a sheet of rain, almost worse than that first night. The street looked shiny and warped under the streetlights. Wind pushed the drops sideways. "You have got to be kidding me," I said. She looked out at the storm, then at me. "I drove today," she said. "You rode the bus, remember? I can get us both to my place. It is closer than yours in this mess." "You sure?" I asked. She raised an eyebrow. "You think I am going to let you stand out here waiting for a bus that might never show up? Come on." We ran to her car, both soaked by the time we reached it. The ride to her house was short but slow. The rain hammered the windshield. The wipers barely kept up. Inside, it felt like we were in our own small bubble again. When we pulled into her driveway, the porch light was on, shining through the rain. My heart did that small jump it always did when I saw her place now. It felt less like a stop and more like a second home. Inside, she tossed her keys on the table and kicked off her shoes. I followed, shaking water out of my hair. She flipped on the soft lamps in the living room. The paintings on her walls glowed in the warm light. The same couch waited there, the same pullout I had slept on before. She walked to the window and stared out at the rain for a moment. Then she turned back to me. Her eyes held that mix of nerves and courage I had seen on the balcony after the gossip started. "Do you want to stay here tonight?" she asked. The words were the same as that first time, but something in the way she said them was different. There was no casual tone now, no easy cover. She was not asking out of fear for the roads. She was asking something else. My chest tightened. I looked at the couch, then back at her. "I will stay," I said. My voice was calm, but I could feel my heart racing. I took a breath and added the rest. "And I am still not sleeping on the sofa." This time, I did not hide behind a joke. For a second her face stayed still, then I saw it, the way her shoulders relaxed, the way her eyes softened and warmed, the way her lips parted in a small, shaking smile. She stepped closer. "Then where are you sleeping, Alex?" she asked, her voice low but steady. "Where you are," I said, "if you want that too. I do not want to pretend anymore that this is just rides and code and storms. I care about you, not just as my lead, not just as my friend. I want this to be real." The room was quiet, except for the rain beating on the glass. She reached up and touched my cheek with her hand, thumb brushing the edge of my jaw like she was memorizing it. "I have been trying not to cross this line for a long time," she said. "I told myself it would be easier to keep you as just my smartest dev, just my calm voice in chaos. But every time you show up, every time you fix something I did not even ask about, every time you listen, it gets harder to pretend." She swallowed and laughed once, a small, shaky sound. "Yes," she said, "I want it too." My chest felt like it would burst. All the late nights, all the jokes, all the small looks across desks and screens. It all came together right there in her living room. I stepped closer. She tilted her head up. Our foreheads touched for a second, just breathing the same air. Then I kissed her. It was not a movie kiss. There were no perfect angles or big music. It was slow and real. Years of trust and held back feelings poured into that simple touch. When we pulled apart, her eyes were bright. She rested her head against my chest for a moment, listening to my heart pound. "So," she said softly, "no sofa." "No sofa," I said. Ever again. We did not rush anything. We moved through the rest of the night like we had moved through everything else, steady, careful, together. She handed me another soft shirt. I left my bag by the couch, the same place I had put it that first night. Only this time, when we turned off the lights and walked down the hall, we walked side by side. Later, lying in her bed with the window cracked open and the sound of rain drifting in, I stared at the ceiling and thought about how far we had come. From a late ride in a storm to quiet breakfasts, from ugly office whispers to standing up for each other, from a pull-out couch to this. I turned my head. She was already looking at me, eyes soft, hair spread out on the pillow. "Tired?" she asked. "Happy," I said. She smiled and reached for my hand under the blanket, our fingers laced together, simple and sure. Life did not suddenly become a perfect story after that. We still had bad days at work. We still had bugs that broke at the worst times. We still had rain that ruined plans. But now, when the storms hit, I did not face them alone. I had a woman who had fought to be heard, and she had a man who had learned to speak up. We had a home where the lights were warm and the couch stayed empty at night. She once asked, "Do you want to stay here tonight?" Now we both knew the